What is up everyone, it is Sacred Saiyan here, welcoming you back to another episode of the second season of What If Goku Was in My Hero Academia. If you guys haven't seen the first season, there will be a link to the full series video in the description, and if you end up liking today's video, then please consider subscribing. It is free, and you can always unsubscribe later. There's a link in the description video to join my Discord server, and also to become a channel member if you want to support the channel. I have another channel where I post Star Wars What Ifs, and I posted the first video on my gaming channel as well, so if you want to check them out in the description of the video, then you can. And with all that out of the way, let's get into the 4th episode of the second season of What If Goku Was in My Hero Academia. In today's video, we're going to be doing our very own What Ifs episode of My Villain Academia, covering events surrounding one villain in particular. But before we get into all of that, I'm going to be going over some stuff which has transpired after the last video ended. Since the events of the last video have transpired, All For One, with a cloned body of Goku as a vessel, has now begun his hunt for powerful quirks, which he'll be able to use to take on the likes of Endeavor and mainly Goku. While Goku, using the words of Endeavor, has been able to tap into Super Saiyan at will, and has begun his attempt to master the form like how he mastered Akari. But with Super Saiyan, it seems to be much more difficult, due to it having both a larger strain on the body, and it tapping into his emotions even more than Akari did. Goku has been meditating while in the Super Saiyan state, and he has sensed a very dark and malicious energy increasing in Japan. However, he can't locate it or sense the true depths of it. And even though he should literally be the strongest man alive right now, that energy he senses still has a drop of sweat roll down Goku's face. Endeavor then walks into the room, interrupting Goku's meditation, and Goku struggles to remain in Super Saiyan as he loses focus for a moment. And Goku then asks Endeavor what's going on. Endeavor tells Goku to prepare himself, as they're about to go on an important mission which goes outside the borders of Japan. And even though Goku is worried about leaving Japan, when the man with that malicious energy is roaming around, he knows that this mission must be important if they have to leave Japan for it. So Goku tells Endeavor that he is ready to go. We now head to All For One. He has just defeated another one of the many powerful quirk users in his conquest to gain powerful quirks. And this person happened to have a teleportation quirk, adding another useful ability to his arsenal, but he still wants to gain more. All For One has been building a set of quirks to use alongside this new vessel of his in order to defeat Goku, and All For One believes that he is on the verge of completing that goal. All For One uses his new teleportation quirk to teleport back to Dr. Ujiko's lab, and he asks Dr. Ujiko if he has located his next target. Dr. Ujiko saying that of course he has, as on a monitor, he shows All For One a small island off the coast of Japan, where a park ranger is unsuspectingly doing his daily patrol. All For One has an evil smirk, telling Dr. Ujiko that he will be back shortly, as he disappears from Dr. Ujiko's sight. On a small island, a park ranger with the name Lapis of the 17th Park Ranger Division is currently doing his daily patrol, making sure all of the animals are safe, but then he gets a strange shiver down his spine. Lapis turns around, a shocked expression on his face as he sees a menacing looking man, but for some reason they look familiar. It then clicks with Lapis. He remembers seeing this guy on the news. He fought alongside All Might. Lapis says that it's an honour to meet him, then asking what someone of his status is doing on a small island like this. But Lapis then has a terrified expression on his face as he sees a ball of energy appear in the man's hand, and as All For One then fires the ball of energy at Lapis, Lapis then creates a barrier around himself, blocking the blast, but he then gets sent flying back into a mountain while inside his barrier. The barrier then fades, All For One slowly walking towards Lapis, as he says that his quirk is very good for defending against attacks too powerful to counter normally. He will be taking that quirk off of him now. All For One then outstretches his hand, then doing a pulling motion towards himself, and Lapis is sent flying towards All For One, and as All For One is about to grab Lapis's face, Lapis creates a bunch of miniature barriers in his hand, and fires them towards All For One. All For One having to stop his grasp on Lapis to smack away these miniature barriers, but some of them do manage to hit All For One. However, All For One isn't even moved by them. All For One smirks, saying that it seems Lapis's quirk can be used for more than just defense. He's excited to see the extent of his quirk. Lapis begins to run away, hiding behind a tree as he thinks to himself that this guy's a monster. There's no way he can survive. And All For One then speaks to Lapis inside of his own mind, telling Lapis that he is correct, and All For One then appears in front of Lapis, smacking him through multiple trees. Lapis knows that he isn't going to be able to run away, so he might as well just try to fight back. So Lapis then covers his hands in miniature barriers, and he rushes towards All For One, attempting to strike All For One with his barrier covered punches. And while All For One is dodging and parrying Lapis's attacks, he is focused on Lapis's movements, studying them. All For One then kicks Lapis away, then outstretching his hand and lifting Lapis into the air, before slamming him into the ground, and as All For One then powers up a ball of energy in each hand, and is about to fire them at Lapis, Lapis then creates a barrier around All For One, just as he fires his attack, meaning All For One's attack hits the inside of the barrier, and Lapis sees a huge explosion from where All For One was standing. The smoke fades alongside the barrier, and All For One is seen laying on the ground, seemingly unconscious, and Lapis slowly walks towards him, thinking that he is lucky he pulled that off in the last second, or he would have been done for. Lapis stands over the body of All For One, thinking to himself that he guesses he should call the police now, but he should put a barrier around this guy first, so he can't escape. But as he outstretches his hand to create a barrier around All For One, in an instant, All For One is gripping the back of Lapis's throat, grasping it tightly as he begins to smugly laugh. He faked his injury to his own attack in order to test Lapis's intelligence. Did Lapis really think he couldn't handle the brunt of his own attack? And did Lapis think that he didn't already have another defensive quirk in his possession? Lapis is unable to respond, however, as he is losing the ability to breathe, and All For One strips his quirk away from him. Lapis then laying on the ground and holding his throat in pain as he begins to breathe heavily. All For One looks down at Lapis, saying that if he is being honest, he didn't even use his full arsenal of quirks against him, nor did he even use his full strength with the quirks he displayed, or with his regular strength and energy attacks. Lapis was just a sacrificial pawn in his long game of chess. However, he will at least give him the dignity of dying along with the rest of his beloved creatures. All For One then flies up into the sky, looking down at the small island and creating a small orb of energy in his hand. All For One then flicking the ball of energy down towards the island. Lapis finally looking up and seeing the orb approaching, so out of sheer desperation, he raises his arms into the air in order to create a barrier to defend the island. But to Lapis's complete shock, nothing happens. That nonsense that monster was spouting must have been true somehow. He really did take his quirk. And this realization is the last thing on Lapis's mind before himself, along with the entire island he's standing on, is blown into oblivion. All For One then appears back in Dr. Ujiko's lab. Dr. Ujiko complimenting All For One, saying that his efficiency was outstanding as per usual, and All For One says that of course it was. With this new vessel and set of quirks he's been collecting, he's become unstoppable. There's only a few more quirks he needs to collect before he will then go after his only possible threat, which is Goku, and he will also kill Endeavor to show off his dominating power by killing the new #1 hero. Speaking of Goku, All For One demands that Dr. Ujiko tells him where Goku is and how his power has been progressing, and Dr. Ujiko first responds to the latter demand. Dr. Ujiko tells All For One about Goku being able to tap into that golden hair transformation at will now, and how he is seemingly attempting to lessen the strain of the form through maintaining it over as long a period of time as possible. Well, as for his current location, he isn't entirely sure. It seems he went on a World Heroes mission of sorts. Goku, Izuku Midoriya, Katsuki Bakugo, and Shoto Todoroki have went on a mission along with Endeavor and other pro-heroes, on a mission which goes outside the borders of Japan, but as to where they may have gone, he doesn't have the slightest idea. All For One is angered, saying that Dr. Ichigo had better figure it out. It would be rather unfortunate if he ended up dead before All For One even battles against Goku and Endeavor. A drop of sweat rolls down Dr. Ujiko's face, saying he will get to work on it now, and All For One smirks, saying very good, as he then says that he will go after his next victim tomorrow before teleporting away, and Dr. Ujiko gives a sigh of relief. Dr. Ujiko then quickly gets to work on trying to find Goku's location, as he does not want to be on the wrong end of All For One's subtle threat to his life. But while he does this, Dr. Ujiko thinks to himself that All For One has been acting different ever since he's been in this new vessel. It's like the biology of this vessel has altered his mind in some way. He seems more blatantly aggressive, and he seems to consider the thrill of a fight just as important as his main goal. He will have to look into this after he finds Goku's location. But with this thought on Dr. Ichiko's mind, we are going to end off this My Villain Academia part. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, then make sure to like, comment, and please do subscribe. It's quick and easy to do. Also, I want to give a huge thank you to Mystic Angel, Yeti Myth, Cam McPherson, Mega Exo, Jonathan Way, and All Might for becoming channel members. If you want to be shouted out at the end of the video, and get other perks like the channel members here, then there's a link in the description down below to become a channel member. It greatly supports me, and helps me immensely. With all of that out of the way, hope to see you all in the next episode of What If Goku Was in My Hero Academia.